Chicago and the Philippines. A comprehensive review of the week's special community events, featuring many exciting personalities, handled by the most professional Chicago Philippine Reports TV staff.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Chicago Philippine Reports TV, still the #1 Filipino show in the Midwest. I'm Girly Pascual. Welcome to our show. Today we have all the top stories from the Philippines. We also have what's happening in our own Filipino-American community of Chicago. We have interesting interviews led by our very own executive producer, Miss Veronica Layton. We have Bridget Cotero Carino. All these are coming up and more afterward from our sponsors. Please stay with us.
Hi, I'm Maria Pappas, Cook County Treasurer. Taxes are due March 1st of this year. You can go to cookcountytreasurer.com, put in your address, don't put in north, south, east, or west, just put in your address, and you will be able to find out whether or not you are eligible for $150 million in refunds, including homeowners, senior, and senior freeze exemptions, and refunds going back 20 years. Go to cookcountytreasurer.com, put in your address, and have a great day.
The ayes have it. The committee report of the Committee of the Whole regarding the resolution of both Houses number 7 is hereby adopted.
The House Committee of the Whole has approved resolution of both Houses number 7, which proposes to amend the 1987 Constitution to empower Congress to regulate foreign investment limits in public utilities, education, and advertising. This despite persistent criticism on the process and merits of the amendments.
If passed, Chacha will twist the principle to grossly favor foreign interests.
It is not a guarantee that it would be the sole key to economic prosperity.
Before lawmakers wrapped up discussions and debates with resource persons, some called out the opposition of the Department of Education to charter change despite the President's clear support for amendments to economic provisions. The agency is led by Vice President Sara Duterte, who has openly rejected charter change.
President clearly said, we have to open our country to more investments, but only, and that is why we support him, only economic amendments.
For the congressmen, they could not yet see the link between their charter change proposal and the DepEd reservation citing national security. The agency, however, maintained that if allowed, Congress can pass a law exempting a foreign school from their regulation. The DepEd earlier argued amending the Constitution won't solve teacher and classroom shortages.
May I ask if this is really an opinion of the Department of Education, or is it purely the fear of an individual who influenced the crafting of this official stand with regards to RBH 7?
In an extreme case, if there is a legislation that establishes an international school and said legislation exempts the school from government regulation, government control and administration.
A House leader maintained that the agency's position is still subject to a vote of lawmakers.
Basta magbobotohan dyan, whether it is their stance were able to influence the congressman, will be revealed later in the outcome of the voting. But as I've said, we respect kung anong position ng DepEd dyan.
And that is exactly what is expected next week when the plenary starts debates, with the goal of approval on second reading next week and final reading the week after.
It's more fun in the Philippines.
Yan! Dito na! Perfect!
Via Times, vital news, vibrant views for the Filipino Asian communities in Chicago. Via Times for your most interesting and exciting reading and your party coverages. Via Times has very interesting columnists. You name it, Via Times has it. Law, Filipino news, dentistry, immigration, humor, serious opinions, health, beauty, mysticism, Bata Corner, showbiz, and intelligently written editorials. Call Via Times at 773-866-0811.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat and welcome to Veronica's segment of the show. Today I have a very interesting, exciting guest and she's from American Red Cross. As you can see the banner behind her. Hi, Connie. Her name is Connie Esparza. And did I pronounce it right, Connie?
Yes, you did, Veronica. Pleasure to meet you and see you today.
Okay, so welcome to our show. Yeah. Okay, I invited you here today for this exciting interview to talk about the fires that are going on that the Red Cross, the Red Cross had to face. Connie is the communications director of the Red Cross Illinois, isn't it? Okay. So Connie, what has been going on in our community about these various fires?
Sure, Veronica. I'm glad you asked. We every week we look back to see what our dedicated volunteers have where they worked for the past week, and the majority always are home fire responses. And as you mentioned, or as we were talking before we connected here, just this past week, we saw in Chicago and around the surrounding suburbs, 44 home fires, which impacted almost 100 people, 23 of them 23 of them children. And during the winter months, Veronica, we see that number and possibly even higher numbers as a result of cold and people looking for unconventional sources to heat their home. And so we urge everyone to please, if you're using a space heater, to use them properly, to make sure you have 3 feet around your space heaters, especially if they're near your bed, curtains, near clothing, or if you have them in rooms where there's children and pets, always practice safety and be in the room when the space heater is on. Making sure it's turned off and possibly even disconnected as you leave the room will be the safest thing for you to do. And Veronica, we also see home fires in the winter increase as a result of using the stove to heat the home. Many people, turn on the range and leave the stovetop going. Some other folks, opt to turn on the oven and leave the door open. Those instances are also risk factors in increasing the chances of you having a home fire, in addition to other issues like carbon monoxide poisoning. So if you're going to use the space heaters, like I said, let's make sure we're using them properly. Let's not use the stove as a heating source. Also candles, if we're using candles in the home, if you're not going to be in the room with the candle, make sure it's turned off, because we see instances of home fires as a result of candle use, especially in homes where there's children and they're throwing toys around, or they're throwing around their blanket and they knock over that candle. So,
Honey, do you see a big increase in fire incidents during the winter time versus the summertime?
Yes, Veronica, like I was saying, the increase is mainly due to the heating sources, and sometimes, folks looking to heat their home in alternate ways, like I said, the stove, or not using that space heater properly.
Wow. Goodness. Okay. So one more important factor or issue that we have to face in the Red Cross is the blood donation. Okay, so all right, so you need blood donation all over the country, right? Okay, can you please make your appeal, Connie?
Sure. Sure, Veronica, and thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about our national blood shortage. Right now, as a nation, we're facing the lowest number of people that are coming out to give blood in the last 20 years. And when fewer people come to donate, Veronica, that means that the inventory is low and is depleted, and it impacts patients who possibly need that blood for cancer treatments, possibly patients with chronic illnesses like sickle cell disease, or traumatic birth situations for either the mom or the newborn, or just emergencies in general. We see terrible accidents happen daily, and the victims of those accidents needing blood to survive. So we encourage everyone who is 17 years of age or older, who weighs more than 110 pounds and is in good health, to consider being a blood donor and help us offset that shortage.
Connie, do you find you're encountering this shortage lately? What could be the cause of a shortage in among donors?
There's a variety of different reasons as to what's impacting the shortage, Veronica, and we're still fighting our way out of the changes in donor behavior from the pandemic. Because so many people are now working remotely, whereas before, we were hosting blood drives in places of employment, which made it a lot easier and more convenient for people to stop in and donate blood. Now, because people are working remotely, it's harder to meet people where they live, and give them access to blood donation opportunities. Also, during the winter months, cold weather and seasonal illnesses also impact blood donation appointments. And weather across the country has been very erratic, and therefore, preventing people from being able to get to their appointments. Or, we're dealing with COVID and RSV and the flu and other illnesses, and in those instances, we encourage people to reschedule their appointment. But just recently, as we saw really frigid weather, we had cancellations of blood drives here in the state alone that impacted us being unable to collect almost 500 units of blood. And imagine what impact that has on not only inventory, but the medical staff who have to make decisions about whether or not their patient has that life-saving procedure today.
So what do you think you must do, or the Red Cross must do, to call attention for the donors to be more active in donating blood?
Veronica, it's the easiest thing to do if you're looking for something to something that makes a huge impact. It's the easiest thing. It's you roll up your sleeve, you're in good health, you donate blood, and you possibly are in and out in maybe 45 minutes if you prepared correctly, and you're having a huge impact on the trajectory of somebody's life, and their family too. I've spoken to so many blood donors and recipients who said, if it wasn't for somebody out there who selflessly stood up and said, yeah, I can donate blood today, I wouldn't be here to tell you my story. So this is something very easy and simple that has a huge impact.
All right, very good. So let's hope that with this interview, we can call the attention of some donors. And okay, Connie, we're running out of our time, and please, one last word from the American Red Cross.
Sure, the last word, if you're looking for information and tips on how to make sure that you have a safe home that will prevent a home fire, if you need free smoke alarms, you can visit redcross.org. If you're looking to donate blood and you want to find a blood donation or a blood drive near you, I encourage everybody to visit redcrossblood.org and enter your zip code, and you'll get a list of all the different blood drives that are happening in and around where you work or live.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Connie, for gracing our show today. And well, We hope that you keep us updated for some issues like this blood donations and fire safety. All right.
Thank you, Veronica, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much, and bye.
Bye.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat, and welcome to Veronica's segment of the show. Today, I have a very exciting, interesting, and very pretty guest in this show, and she's a doctor. Her name is Dr. Carly Marie Manley. Did I pronounce it right, Dr. Manley?
Very close. It's Carla Marie Manley. I'm a clinical psychologist.
All right. And Dr. Manley is an author and a clinical psychologist. And the book that she just released is entitled "The Joy of Imperfect Love." It's still February, the month of love. So this is very apropos for this month to talk about love. And your the title of your book, "The Joy of Imperfect Love," is kind of different. Imperfect love. Many people would think our love is perfect. Okay, Dr. Mandy, welcome to our show. And why is the title of your book as this, the joy of imperfect love? What is it that the joy, there is joy in imperfect love?
It's such a good question. It gets really to the heart of my work that so many times our relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship or a parent-child relationship or friends, anywhere where we have a loving relationship, we often expect ourselves to be perfect or other people to be perfect. But the truth is, human love is never perfect. We're just not capable of it. And so I really believe when we come from a place of accepting that we are imperfect, but that it's not an excuse to harm other people or to show up poorly in relationships. Instead, it's an invitation to constantly work on being our best selves and inviting the people we are in relationship with to be their best selves. And as we work on this and talk about the truth that we are not perfect, that we often have these expectations of having the perfect romance, the perfect friendship, the perfect parent-child relationship. Well, that sets us up for disaster because then we're disappointed in ourselves or we're disappointed in other people. And so it's really about learning how to explore whatever holds us back in life. Many of us have experienced trauma or significantly negative life issues or difficult parenting. We were parented, in ways that maybe weren't the healthiest. And it's never about blaming or shaming someone. It's about looking at what in our life is going well, what works for us, and doing more of that. And looking at what doesn't work well in our lives and doing less of that.
I think you are quite right in there because I think many people think that um, they feel that love should be perfect. The approach to love is perfection. As long as far as other people are concerned, but you are quite right there that it should be looked at as imperfect. And yeah, and so if only people would take a look, read the book, and learn something about the approach of imperfection in in the terminology of love, uh, maybe there would be more successful relationships out there. Well,
Absolutely. And the way I design The Joy of Imperfect Love, as I do with, this is my fourth book, I don't believe that if we just read a book, we change our lives. I believe, like anything else we learn, whether it's, music, whether it's math, whatever it is, we have to practice it. And so every book that I've written contains exercises that they're included. It's part of the book, and people can do them at their own pace. Because when we learn to work with our old patterns and create new patterns, then we can actually create change. If we don't work on our patterns, for example, if we tend to be critical of ourselves or critical of other people, just reading a book about it isn't going to change anything. But if we read and then do the work to see, oh, well, this is where this pattern came. I talk to myself really negatively, or I don't have healthy boundaries. So there are actually exercises that if you can't afford psychotherapy or access psychotherapy, it's not a replacement for psychotherapy, but it can definitely help get you on your way.
and with these exercises that you're talking about, are there, you also mentioned some kind of scripts. There should there be scripts that the couples in a relationship should really know or be learning?
Absolutely. One of the most destructive things in relationships is where you have a partner who says, I'm right, you're wrong, where their mindset is very black and white. You are wrong, I am right, because they grew up in a highly critical environment or something like that. And that's an example of an internal script. Or somebody whose internal script says, I'm afraid of conflict. I'm afraid to talk. I'm afraid to discuss things. And they may not even be aware of that script, but the work is in learning what our scripts are and then shifting them into healthy scripts that might say, oh, it's okay for me to be wrong. It's okay for me to make a mistake. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person or I'm horrible or I'll fail. It just means I'm imperfect and that I can then learn how to do things differently. But so many times we learn these scripts, they're also called internal narratives, become a part of us very early on in life. And many people have a script that says, I should be perfect. I should, and that ties into the script of I should always be right. Because we will never always be right. And if we're interested in always being right, what's more important to you, being right or having a healthy relationship?
Well, in terms of something like that, I think the factor that's really very important is maturity or from each partner.
Absolutely. And people often think that maturity is about your age. You can be 70-year-old, 70, 80, 90, 50, and you might not be emotionally mature. You may be physically mature, but it's about, and we don't a lot of times get education in how to be emotionally mature. And so we need guidance to help us learn how to process our emotions, how to communicate clearly, how to listen, how to do so many things that we didn't learn as children, because in many cultures, children were taught. I know I grew up being told to be quiet. I didn't learn how to communicate. I learned how to be quiet. And so if we don't find a way to learn these skills, we will have a very not mature part of the self that is running the show. And the joy of imperfect love helps you earn the emotional intelligence that will help you in all of your relationships. It's not just romantic. The skills that I teach will help people be better parents, be better siblings, be better romantic partners, be better at work, because they are the same skills. The only difference is we need to be able to be more vulnerable in our romantic relationships. And that's where it gets trickier, because anytime we may be a good communicator at work, but we're not vulnerable at work. We might be the expert at work. So it's really much harder in our romantic and intimate relationships.
So I think the process of what you're talking about is just to be true to themselves. A couple should be approaching the relationship as imperfect, and then from imperfection, they can grow up together into perfection. Is something like that? Are you trying to
You are
convey?
so close. The only part is you said it beautifully, but we will never get perfect. We will smooth out the bumps. We will get it better. It will, but then life will throw something at us. And that is the piece that's beautiful. As we get closer to being less imperfect, then the issues that arise aren't so devastating. The challenges that arise help us become stronger and grow, and they don't throw us off balance because we've learned how. So life will never be perfect for us. We're human, it's an imperfect world. What we can hope to do is increase our skills so that over time we navigate what life throws at us with more grace, with more compassion, with more empathy.
Great, terrific. Dr. Manley, in any kind of a relationship, well, right now in our present world, um, how does the social media or the technology impact the relationships?
Social media technology isn't inherently bad or good. It's how we use it that can make it bad or good. One of the ways social media harms us is that we're always looking at images that look perfect. Perfect bodies, perfect hairstyles, perfect lives, the perfect couple where they just went on a vacation. And we forget that those are just snapshots, that those are people who spent a lot of time and money getting to look that way or get that perfect picture. And so we tend to feel like we are broken and imperfect because our relationship has challenges or we don't look as perfect. And so social media can make us feel very negatively about who we are by always highlighting the perfect reels that aren't reality. The other way, and this goes to technology, relationships take time and work. They take effort. And if we are going the easy path of investing in technology and just looking at social media or watching movies, instead of investing in connecting with the people in our lives, having deep conversations, going on walks and talking about all sorts of things, then we become very attuned to technology and not very attuned to the people in our lives.
Do you think with the projection of the coming of AI, uh, which is really a lot of people have been expecting and talking about these days, um, do you think relationship would really matter when AI age come around?
Relationships, as long as humans are around, relationships will matter. Just like every other animal that, has a really thinking, feeling brain, a way of being, humans are wired to need connection. Humans are wired to need each other. And AI, we can try and let it replace our relationships, but it will never, ever replace the importance of healthy human interaction. It just won't.
Very interesting, Dr. Manley. And okay, where can our audience purchase your book?
They can purchase any of my books, including The Joy of Imperfect Love, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever fine books are sold. And it's actually releasing March 5th. So if somebody pre-orders now, they'll be able to be one of the first to enjoy it. And your listeners can find me. My website is drcarlamanley.com.
Okay, all right. Before we well, before we say our goodbye, one last word from you regarding your book.
I really invite, it's about the book, but it's not. I invite people to really embrace the importance of connection, of loving yourself. We don't need to love ourselves perfectly to love each other well. So it's important for us to really start engaging with each other, talking with each other. And actually, I have a podcast called Imperfect Love. And the more we engage with each other and talk about mental health topics, the more we can make the world a better place and the kind of place we want to be in.
Great, terrific. Dr. Manley, Dr. Carla Marie Manley, right? Okay, thank you. Thank you for gracing the show today. That was very, very interesting. I really like this topic. The topic of love, imperfect love. Oh, believe it or not, it's different. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for gracing our show today. At maraming salamat. That's thank you. Thank you in our language. At maraming salamat po sa inyong panonood. Ako po si Veronica. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, Dr. Manley.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Maria Pappas, Cook County Treasurer. Taxes are due March 1st of this year. You can go to cookcountytreasurer.com, put in your address, don't put in north, south, east, or west, just put in your address, and you will be able to find out whether or not you are eligible for $150 million in refunds, including homeowners, senior, and senior freeze exemptions, and refunds going back 20 years. Go to cookcountytreasurer.com, put in your address, and have a great day.
This is a prayer and a reminder. All we have is now. Anak, umuwi ka na.
Worldwide this morning, growing concern over a growing health crisis.
The World Health Organization has just declared that this is a pandemic.
Hi. I can't hug you. Don't touch me.
Over the last several days, we have seen peaceful demonstrations.
Protests over police brutality continued here in Austin.
Remember when you started going to college? You came home a liberal?
Dad, please.
That's what we do to you guys in this court.
All these people that we never met and never will meet because of what had happened to them. It's just too much.
The way that our family communicates is not necessarily, it's not great.
What advice would you give for those of us that are struggling?
Deal with it.
Yeah.
I think the norm for our communities has been to just stay silent and keep to your own business.
I could definitely be doing more than I'm doing right now, and I know that others can as well.
What if someone is called from God to be an activist?
I can answer that question.
Shouting revolution, oh, I'll break it
skinny tradition.
You don't believe in the Black Lives Matter movement?
An advocacy group reporting at least 3,800 anti-Asian hate incidents since last March.
I'm kind of conflicted. I'm like, maybe I should move home and be here with them.
I hope that this moment makes you take a step forward and a step together in the right direction.
In order for a subject to not be taboo in our community, there always has to be like someone to start that conversation.
You speak up for me when I can't speak up for myself. And I've seen you do that for other people.
I see a lot of people who just kind of cut off friends and family, and I don't think I can do that. I love my parents.
This is a symbol of our voices. If you look at your neighbors around you, you will see who stands with you, who stands for you.
At least I know that you can stand up. That's the thing I'm so happy about.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat and welcome to Veronica's segment of the show. Today, I have a very interesting guest. He's a lawyer and he's from Chicago. His name is Attorney John Wood. Attorney Wood is the founding attorney of Grant Park Legal Advisors here in Chicago. And your company handles what kind of business, Mr. Wood? And will you please tell us about a little bit of your background first?
Sure. Our law firm handles primarily probate, estate planning. We also do a fair amount of business law because many of our clients are also small business people. My background is I was originally passed the bar in 1997, a graduate of DePaul Law here in Chicago, just down the street, and have worked both in the investment management industry and in the legal industry. My experience in the investment management industry gave me the impetus to start looking at how trusts were as part of the estate plan were being applied and used. And that's when I kind of determined we can do a better job of creating trusts and other estate planning documents than what's currently being done. So I opened the law firm Grant Park Legal Advisors.
I see. And you've been in the business for many years. All right.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
All right. Well, I invited you here today because of the press release that was sent to me about estate planning. Okay, what is estate planning?
Estate planning at the most basic level is just putting together the plan for once you pass, how your family is going to deal with all your assets and how you're going to take care of them. To make sure the right people get what you want them to get. An estate plan can be as simple as a basic will. A basic will may just say all my assets to my spouse or all my assets to my children. But one of the key things about a basic will is it'll allow the estate to waive the probate bond. A probate bond can be several $1,000s just in and of itself. So doing that basic will just save your estate some money by doing that. And you've ensured are now given directions for the executor or the administrator of your estate as to how you want the assets divided up, rather than just relying on the state's definition of how you want the assets divided up. That's really integral. And if you have small children, it becomes even more important because you'll then get to name who you would want to be their guardian once you've passed, if their other parent wasn't available.
Okay, what is the relationship or, well, we run across, as ordinary citizens, we always run across wills and testaments and power of attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? So what is it? What is the connection? What is it in there that a regular citizen like me should be aware of or should do Should we have the last will and testament, and do we have to have always a power of attorney, or or estate planning?
So as part of your estate planning, you're also preparing for that period of time when you're incapacitated. Most of us will go through at least a brief period of incapacity prior to us passing. So that's where the power of attorneys really become important. The power of it, you have the durable power of attorney, and that one handles the business of your life, the finances, debt, and contracts, and all of the things like buying or selling a property, or doing, paying your bills, going to your credit cards, determining all the business of your life, the non-healthcare related. Then there's the healthcare power of attorney. The healthcare power of attorney, and it can be set up in a couple of different ways, but the most common way that I've found is what's called springing. It springs into being when you become incapacitated and can't make healthcare decisions for yourself. Then you want someone you trust, and often a loved one who cares about you, to step in and make healthcare decisions on your behalf. Do you want extraordinary measures to prolong your life, even if you're in pain? Or do you want to have the decision made that if I'm not going to recover and I'm not going to be able to communicate with my friends and family and enjoy life, do I want to just be allowed to pass? Those are the types of things that the healthcare power of attorney will do for you. And it's important because at that last minute, you have a family that's coming together in often very stressful times, trying to make those decisions together. And without direction from you, there can be conflicts. And this is stressful. And it's hard on the family when those conflicts happen. It's better if the person has kind of stated their wishes in advance and nominated someone they want to make those decisions. So the power of attorney and the healthcare power of attorney are pre-death. Those are items that will help during the incapacity period. Then the will comes. The will then handles how you want everything divided. What do you want done with your assets upon your passing? Do I want my brother to get something? Do I want often we see ladies who are married want specifically their wedding ring to go down to their daughter, not to the son, because it's more of an attachment to the daughter than to the son. And they'll have important things like that. Perhaps the husband wants his watch to go to his son, just as an example. There can be very specific things in that will. If you don't have specific things in the will, it can lead to disputes. I want this, or I want half the value of that, or you're supposed to do this, which can result in the court ordering the liquidation and sale of all the assets and just dividing the money. By taking the step to create the will, you've waived the bond requirement with the court. You've set up a plan for how you want your assets to be distributed, and you've helped your family after you've passed come together rather than, as I've seen in some cases, be pushed apart by those assets.
In other words, in executing all these legal documents, people should really require the support and help of a lawyer, knowledgeable lawyer like you.
It's very important. There are very specific requirements for a will that are required legally. And if you mess up one of those requirements, your will may not be valid. I've had people coming in thinking that they had a valid will where people have handwritten what they wanted and signed it. That would be referred to as a holographic will. Unfortunately, Illinois does not recognize those types of wills. Wills in Illinois have very specific requirements. They have to be witnessed by two witnesses who are not beneficiaries of the will. It's good practice to have all the signatures notarized. That way there can be no dispute as to whether the person actually signed the will. What you're trying to avoid, again, is a family turmoil by having someone contest the will. And having the will thrown out and it becoming divided as the state sees fit under the per stirpes laws. So that's why it's good to come to an attorney to do this. It's kind of like I like to tell people when they're talking about it, you could do a will on your own, just like you could build a home on your own. But if you make a mistake when you're building that home in the wiring, your whole house could burn down. If you make a mistake in the drafting of your will, your whole will may be invalid. And that's why we hire professionals to come in. And usually a basic will and powers of attorney are fairly reasonable to get done.
Okay. How expensive is it to have all these legal documents executed by a professional like you?
So typically at my firm currently in January, or we're to March already, of 2024, a basic will to my children or to my spouse and my children without having any trust in it or anything like that. The healthcare powers of attorney and the supporting documentation around that, you're looking at around $800. If we're going to do what's called a transfer of death instrument, which is another document that will allow the house to be transferred automatically to the without having to be going through probate, you're looking at about another $200 for that document and the filing fee, which is typically around $72, depending on the county.
Can an individual seek your services through online, or it should be personal?
I've done it both ways. A lot of my clients will talk on the phone. We'll do a Zoom conference. We will go over everything. But then for the signing, we need to be in person because you need to have two uninterested witnesses and it needs to be notarized. I have been in situations where people have wanted it. We've sent the documents out and they've had their own witnesses and their own notary come to their home rather than coming to our office. So it can be done either way. I do recommend that typically people at least come into the office for the signing.
Okay. One last word before we sign off about estate planning.
So I think it's one of the most important things we can do for our family and our children. When it's a young family, establishing those guardians, making sure that they're taking those children are taken care of and you look out for them. Establishing who you want to manage their finances. If something should happen to you, you don't want those types of decisions to be left to the courts. And God forbid you have competing grandparents that would have a dispute. As we get older in life and our children are grown, making sure that we don't have disputes between our children after we've passed and we haven't left something undecided and unthought about and left them to deal with something that could cause tension among them. We want our family to be happy.
Very interesting. Thank you for gracing our show today, Mr. Wood. And I think we received some really good advice from you, even though it's short, in estate planning from you today.
Thank you for having me.
What other do you also handle other legal services besides
we handle business law, litigation, disputed estates comes as part of our estate planning. But the business law is our next biggest area of practice, where we handle corporate formation, we handle partnership agreements, we handle dissolution of corporations and things of that nature.
Great, terrific. Business, right?
Yes.
You're a business lawyer. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat is thank you so much in our language. At maraming salamat po sa inyong panonood. Ako po si Veronica. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, Mr. Wood. See you.
We would like to welcome all of you to Baladna Jewelry. We have a very big selection of 21 karat gold jewelry imported from the Middle East, from Dubai, Saudi, and Bahrain. And we have a very big selection of diamond. We offer free financing for 6 months, and we have a layaway system which you can leave your stuff for 3 months. We repair gold and we buy old gold. Welcome to Baladna Jewelry.
Salamat po.
Good afternoon, this is Bridget Karina Quecher bringing you this week's local news from our community. The 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution gives Congress, not the states, the authority to remove a candidate from the presidential primary ballot. The U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruled on Monday. The Colorado Supreme Court ruled last year former President Donald Trump could be removed from the state's presidential primary ballot for his actions on January 6, 2021. Colorado's highest court, in a 4-3 decision, overturned a district court ruling, as District Court Judge Sarah Wallace ruled Trump's speech on January 6 incited lawless violence, but didn't meet the definition of engagement found in the 14th Amendment. The Illinois Commission on Equitable Public University Funding submitted its recommendations report to the Illinois General Assembly. The commission was established by Public Act 102-0570 and was tasked with developing a structure that funds the state's public universities in an adequate, equitable, and stable manner, a key strategy in the state's strategic plan for higher education, a thriving Illinois. The Illinois Board of Higher Education was charged with supporting the commission's work. Under the new formula, funds will be directed to the state's public institutions in a transparent manner through an equity-centered advocacy target, with the funding at each institution based on the particular makeup and needs of the student body, the characteristics and mission of the institution, and the resources it has available to it. The Illinois Department of Public Health announced that it is adopting updated guidance from the CDC that streamline and simplify recommendations for dealing with the range of respiratory viruses, including COVID-19, flu, and RSV. The new guidance focuses on protecting those most at risk of serious illness. The CDC guidance was issued as data indicate respiratory viruses are continuing to circulate around Illinois, and the state's overall respiratory virus level has moved up from low to moderate, based on an uptick in flu reports. The state remained at low level for COVID-19 hospitalizations, according to the CDC COVID data tracker, as of February 24th. The data show that 6 counties are at medium level for COVID-19 hospitalizations, down from 8 the previous week. There are no counties at high level for COVID-19 hospitalizations. Also this week on Wednesday, the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices issued a recommendation for a second dose of the current 2023 to 2024 COVID-19 vaccines that were authorized last fall to be given to those over 65 years of age. Site Selection Magazine, an international industry-leading business publication, released its annual Corporate Expansion and Relocation Rankings, naming Illinois number 2 in the nation for corporate projects and Chicago the top metro for the 11th year in a row. The state ranks number 2 in the nation for corporate expansions and relocations for the second year in a row, with 552 business expansion or relocation projects in 2023, up from 487 in 2022. Illinois also placed number 2 in projects per capita, up from number 4 the previous year. Illinois continues to attract leading companies to our state, with hundreds of openings and expansions every year, said Governor J.B. Pritzker. With our unique incentives, our growing market, and our diverse and talented workforce, there is no doubt that the economy in Illinois is thriving. This impressive recognition from Site Selection Magazine for the second year in a row makes it clear. Illinois is back and open for business. The magazine also recognized the Chicago metropolitan area as the top metro for business expansion and relocations among large metros for the 11th straight year. Governor J.B. Pritzker and the Illinois Department of Human Services recognized March as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Illinois. To raise awareness around gambling disorders and honor those in recovery, participating buildings in downtown Chicago will be lit teal, and a statewide art contest will shine a spotlight on the power of recovery. Throughout the month, IDHS will also partner with providers across the state to raise awareness around treatment options for those in need. This month is an extremely important time for IDHS and our providers to raise awareness for the recovery support services available for gambling disorder. We would like to thank BOMA Chicago for helping us in our efforts to raise awareness by lighting the skyline teal from March 25th through 31st during the 2024 men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments, said Dulce M. Quintero, Secretary-Designate of the Illinois Department of Human Services. Individuals who struggle with gambling disorder often hide their behavior from family members, and we want all Illinois residents to know there is hope and a path to recovery. That's all for today. Thank you for watching our news this week. This is Bridget. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Maria Pappas, Cook County Treasurer. Taxes are due March 1st of this year. You can go to cookcountytreasurer.com, put in your address. Don't put in north, south, east, or west. Just put in your address, and you will be able to find out whether or not you are eligible for $150 million in refunds, including homeowners, senior, and senior freeze exemptions, and refunds going back 20 years. Go to cookcountytreasurer.com, put in your address, and have a great day.
Yes.